The Whisper. Before we begin tonight's nightmare, don't forget to subscribe and join our dark family, because here, in room 313, you will never watch alone. They say every old house has a room that should stay locked, a door that creaks in the night, a hallway that makes you feel watched, even when you're alone. For the Johnson family, that room was room 313. The building they'd moved into wasn't just any boarding house. It was ancient. Its bricks were stained with decades of rain, its windows cracked, its hallways always carrying the faint smell of dust and damp wood. Some said it had once been a hospital. Others whispered it used to be a home for children during the war. But whatever its past, there was always one rule. The landlord repeated it every time a new tenant arrived. Never open the door at the end of the hall. That's room 313. Keep it locked. Keep away. Most tenants ignored the warning. Some even laughed about it, but none of them stayed long. They always left suddenly, in the middle of the night, without explanation. When the Johnsons arrived, their son Michael was only 8 years old, a curious boy, too curious. He loved exploring every corner of the house. Every step on the wooden floorboards became an adventure. But when he saw that one door at the far end, painted black with the faded brass numbers 313 nailed into the wood, his imagination went wild. He asked his father, "What's in that room?" His father shrugged it off. "Nothing for you to worry about." His mother was harsher. "Stay away from it, Michael." But children never stay away from mysteries. One stormy night, Michael woke up. Rain tapped against his window like fingers. The wind held down the chimney. He was thirsty, so he tiptoed down the hallway toward the kitchen. That's when he noticed something strange. The door to room 313 was open. Not wide, just a crack, enough for him to see darkness inside, enough for him to hear something. At first, he thought it was just the storm, but then he froze. A whisper, soft, clear, calling his name. Michael, his little heart hammered in his chest. He spun around, thinking it was his father, but the hallway was empty. The whisper came again, from inside the room. "Michael, come play." He stood there, trembling. His mind told him to run, but his speed carried him closer. The air grew colder. His breath came out in mist. When he reached the doorway, he pushed it open slowly. The hinges groaned like something alive. Inside, the room looked abandoned. The wallpaper peeled in strips. The ceiling sagged. Dust splotched in the beam of moonlight, and scattered across the floor, toys. Old, broken toys. A doll with one eye missing. A rusted toy car. A teddy bear with no head. And then, he saw it.
On the bed at the far corner sat another boy, about his age, pale skin, dark eyes, smiling at him. Michael whispered, "Who are you?" The boy tilted his head. "Don't you remember me? I used to live here." Michael frowned. "No, I've never seen you before." The boy's smile grew wider. "Too wide. Stay with me. Forever. We can play every night." Michael took a step back. His chest tightened. Something was wrong. He wanted to scream for his father, but his voice wouldn't come out. Suddenly, the door slammed shut behind him. Michael spun around, grabbing the handle. It wouldn't budge. He pulled and pulled, tears running down his face. The whispering grew louder. The shadows in the corners of the room stretched unnaturally, slithering across the walls toward him. The boy stood up from the bed, his movement stiff and natural like a puppet. His dark eyes never blinked, and with each step closer, the room grew colder. Michael pressed against the door, begging, "Please, let me out." But the last thing he heard, before everything went black, was the boy's voice, right behind him, whispering into his ear, "You're mine now." That was only the beginning. The next chapter reveals what Michael's father discovered when he came home, and why no one dares speak of room 313 again.
2. The Vanishing. Before we begin, don't forget to subscribe and join our dark family, because here, in room 313, you will never watch alone. The storm raged on that night. Thunder cracked above the old house, shaking the walls. Round midnight, Michael's father, Thomas Johnson, returned home from his late shift. He carried his tool bag, tired, ready for bed, but the house was silent, too silent. Normally, Michael would run to greet him. His small footsteps would echo through the hallway. But this time, nothing. "Michael," Thomas called out, his voice uneasy. No answer. He moved through the hallway, the floorboards creaking under his boots. That's when he noticed it. The door, the one door that was never supposed to open, Room 313, is still wide open. His heart dropped. God. No, he whispered. Rushing toward it, he pushed the door fully open, his flashlight beam cutting through the darkness. Inside, the room looked empty, dust everywhere, broken furniture, nothing else. Michael. He called again, his voice trembling, and then he saw it, on the floor, in the corner, Liam Michael's teddy bear, the one he never slept without. Thomas picked it up with shaking hands, calling out louder now, his voice breaking. Michael, answer me. But the room swallowed his voice. Then, the temperature dropped. His breath turned white in the beam of his light. The shadows in the corners began to move, not like flickering shapes from the flashlight. These shadows had weight, depth, and form. They stretched along the walls, long arms reaching, fingers crawling like insects. Thomas stumbled backward, watching the teddy bear. His flashlight flickered, and that's when he heard it. The child's laughter. It wasn't Michael's laugh. It was something twisted, distorted, too deep, too broken. The shadows rose higher, covering the walls, until the entire room seemed to breathe with them. And then Thomas saw him. A boy, standing at the far end of the room, pale, empty eyes, a smile too wide, stretching across his face. "Where's my son?" Thomas shouted, his voice shaking. The boy tilted his head. "He's with me now." Thomas stepped forward. "Give him back." The boy's grin widened. The shadows behind him began to swirl, forming shapes, faces, dozens of faces screaming silently, pressed into the darkness as though trapped inside it. One of those faces was Michael. His small mouth opened in a silent cry, his hands pressed against the wall of shadow, begging to be pulled out. Thomas lunged forward, dropping the teddy bear, reaching out for his son, Michael. But as his fingers touched a shadow, the entire room shook violently. The door slammed shut behind him. The walls cracked. The floor groaned. And then, silence. The next morning, the landlord arrived to check on the Johnsons. The hallway was quiet. The storm had passed. He knocked on the door. No answer. He unlocked it. Stepping inside, the apartment was empty, completely abandoned. The beds untouched, the kitchen cold. But at the far end of the hallway, room 313 was open again. Inside, the landlord found nothing but dust, and deep scratches carved into the plaster. 3 numbers, gouged into the wall with something sharp, 313. And on the floor, lying in the corner, was a teddy bear. That was room 313. And the Johnson family was never seen again. Some say if you visit that house now, late at night, you can still hear Michael's voice echoing through the hallway, calling for help. But if you follow the sound, you may never come back out. Don't forget to subscribe, and tell us in the comments, would you dare to step inside room 330?